I lived with him twice. Once in 1948 when I went to novitiate, and I guess it was 4 years later when the province split and we came back to Huntington, and Huntington was no longer a novitiate house but became our house of philosophy, so I finished up my last year there. I have a couple things that one is, I think everybody in the community understood that we had a man of mystery in our house. Not in the sense that he was himself mysterious or anything like that, but we had the sense that we were living with a very holy person. Couldn't figure it out, and probably shouldn't have tried to figure it out. At the time, our communities were divided into the novices, the professed brothers, and the professed priest. So we had that distinct difference in our province. When we would gather for recreation, the whole community would come down, and we were regimented in the sense of novices stayed in one place, lay brothers in the other place, and priest in the other place. One of my memories is the rather playful way in which the professed priest that he lived with on that side of the monastery would interact with him at recreation. I shouldn't say invariably, but often Solanus would bring down his violin, which he played terribly, and he would entertain us with, I think it's the only two songs he really knew. One was Mother McCree and the other was Pop Goes the Weasel. And so he'd play one and mess it up pretty badly, and one of the friars would say, Solanus, play the other one you know. That type of thing. The second thing I remember about myself with him is the privilege of serving for his mass, and probably other friars would have said the same thing about that. But there's one incident, and I can't remember. Yes, it was before. It was while I was in novitiate. My mother wrote to me to tell me that this couple that we've known for years were making a trip, husband and wife, because the wife was dying of cancer, and the husband, Herman I believe his name was, wanted to get her away and take her mind off, so they made this trip south, out of, from, they were over in Warren or Toma, one of those areas there, and wanted to know whether they could stop in for a visit. And I, of course, had to ask my novice master about that, and, well, you really shouldn't do it, but yeah, okay, you can do it. So they didn't refuse it. So they arrived, and to make a relatively long story short, I asked if they would like to see if she would like to see Father Solanus. And Solanus came down and talked to her, very gentle, and pulled this in his bib. He pulled out this relic of the apostles. He carried it with him, for always. And he gives it to her. I forget what her name was. He gave it to her, and he says, "Here, you touch this where it hurts." And So she did. He asked her to pray for the missions, I remember, and gave her a blessing and departed. This couple had a son who was a priest, who was a classmate of my brother, Father Irvin. But he was a diocesan priest. And so somehow, when Irvin was in the seminary and so forth, they became friends, and I remember exchanging visits. So, after this visit, I guess I basically forgot about it, except what was it, 7 years later, I was ordained, and we invited her priest son and his mother, who had kept house for him. The father had died, but she was alive and well at the ordination, and continued on, as I recall, maybe a total of 14 years to keep house for her son. And I thought that was quite a remarkable story. Sometimes busloads of people would come down from Detroit to see him. And I remember one very bright and clear day. Somehow we were out in the front yards. God, there must have been, I'm guessing, 200 people. It seemed to me like there were 5 or 6 buses there. And Solanus, I'm standing practically next to him, and he's giving some very pious fervorino, telling the people to recognize how much God loves them and so forth. And he's got this high, squeaky, irritable voice, and I'm next to him, and I could hear him, but it seemed to me that the people way at the end of that crowd could hear him too. It just seemed that way to me, that they were standing on tiptoe, and so those would be my main memories of him.